Testimony Tuesday on The Simple Truth. We consecrate everything to the Sacred Heart of Jesus through the Immaculate Heart of Mary and the pure, strong, chaste heart of Saint Joseph. Our guest today is Dr. George Delgado. He is president and founder of Steno Institute, stenoinstitute.org, also the founder of the Abortion Pill Reversal Program, now called Abortion Pill Rescue, abortionpillreversal.com to learn more about the network. He's also board certified in both family medicine and hospice and palliative medicine. Dr. Delgado received his medical degree from the University of California, Davis, and completed his residency at Santa Monica Hospital in UCLA. Dr. Delgado is certified in healthcare ethics through the National Catholics Bioethics Center and is a natural family planning medical consultant, having completed the NAPRO Technology Physician Training Program. Dr. George Delgado, welcome to The Simple Truth. Thank you so much for being with us today. How are you?
I'm doing well. It's great to be here.
Excellent. Well, thanks for being with us. Great blessing to have you with us. We always begin these testimonies at the beginning. We are looking forward to getting into your good work in the second half of the program. But let's start with childhood. What was your early life like, your family, the culture that you grew up in?
I grew up in an immigrant family. My parents and my 5 older brothers came to the United States 2 years before I was born from Colombia, South America. So it was a household where the Catholic faith was very important, where we spoke both Spanish and English. But at the same time, we retained some of our cultural traditions. We did assimilate pretty quickly into American culture.
Great. Well, what was the sense of the faith with the family growing up?
Faith was always very important. We always went to Mass every Sunday, prayed the Rosary every night together as a family, and my parents always tried to emphasize how important and central the faith was and should be to our family. So that was a great gift that my parents gave all of us, my 6 brothers and myself, that Jesus should be at the center of our lives. So by all means, for sure, that was the greatest gift that they left to us, a legacy, a spiritual legacy for us.
Amazing. Yeah, what a gift. Incredible. So you get off to a great start early on with parents giving you the most important thing, which is our Lord Jesus and his Catholic Church. What a gift to grow up with that. So what was the life of the parish like? What do you remember in terms of the faith community that you were in?
My first 10 years, we went to St. David Parish in Richmond, California. And that, I made my first Holy Communion pretty much soon after, within the first 10 years of changes of Vatican II. So I really don't remember the traditional Latin Mass. Everything had changed, and I was sort of one of the first test cases, I guess, of how everything was going to be after Vatican II. And I think the priests at the parish, there were usually 2 of them, sometimes 3, were trying to make their way through this and figure it all out as they went along. Then when I was 10, we moved to Pinole, California, also in the East Bay area of the San Francisco region. And there, I think you could really see the full effects of what had happened, the changes to the Mass and to parish life. And I think, unfortunately, a lot of the harm that it had caused to the church and to parish life was being manifested there.
Yeah, and what was it like with your parents? What do you recall about how they were navigating that time? Would they talk to you guys about some of that and say, this is what's going on. This is what this means. I mean, it's confusing because we're looking for our parish family to really be rock solid in the faith. Obviously, an extension of that Catholic culture we're building at home out into a wider community. But when you start to see things shifting even within that wider community, it can be difficult. Do you remember how your parents kind of grappled with that?
Yeah, my parents, I think they trusted too much in both the church and in the society at large, and they trusted that the values that they were inculcating into us would be reinforced. They didn't see that the Trojan horse had been let inside. And I think they, like many parents at the time, were caught off guard. So they unfortunately didn't prepare us to really question what was being presented us, both by society in general, but also in the church. And so therefore, a lot of the wishy-washy teachings, the confusion, and sometimes, unfortunately, even teachings that opposed what the church really taught, probably bordering on heresy, we weren't well equipped to question it. And so a lot of that, I let it sort of infiltrate my consciousness and my subconsciousness probably even more, so that as I went on in life, I was not well formed as a Catholic because of that.
Yeah, I think that's a story many can relate to, and at the same time, great upheavals in the overall culture at the time. So really, this perfect storm of evil in the sense that you really need the solid backbone of the faith during that time when the culture is shifting in terrible ways, and that's the very time that it's being undermined from within in various ways. So very difficult time to be in. I guess what do you remember, I guess, as you're going through your high school years and what you were noticing in the culture? You certainly loved your Catholic faith by all accounts from what I'm hearing. How did that sort of conflict and tension, what do you remember about that in the high school years?
So for high school, I went to a Catholic boys' high school, and unfortunately there was more relativism being taught. The faith was being questioned either explicitly or implicitly, and the beautiful truth of our church only being taught every once in a while. I received very bad counsel from the vice principal there about some moral questions, and it only led to my further sort of spirit line going to that Catholic high school, unfortunately.
And so as you're getting towards the end of the high school years, where would you say you were at in terms of the strength of your faith at that point? Was that in your mind as you were considering what you were going to be going on into further studies on in college? Was there any discernment about priesthood or religious life or anything like that? I guess what can you share with us as the high school years were winding down?
So I have some, I would say, quite superficial discernment about whether the Lord was calling me to be a priest. I consider it, but not in very great depth. As far as where I was headed with my life, I was mostly at that point thinking about what kind of career I would have. I certainly was thinking more and more about wanting to marry and have a family, have children. But mostly I was thinking about really more earthly and material things, sort of career I would want to move forward and as far as setting my focus on college.
Sure. And then I guess share with us what that was like, trying to figure that out and where to go and what to study.
Yeah, so living in the Bay Area, I kind of wanted to get away, and I set my sights on San Diego kind of presciently, I guess. But my parents were wise. I think they knew deep down inside that I shouldn't leave home and be away from the core structure and stability of the family. So I said, that's fine if you want to go to San Diego to go to college. You can go, but we're not going to pay any college expenses. So that was kind of a damper on that. I figured, well, I'm going to be practical here and do what they want. And I chose to go to a local Catholic university there in the Bay Area where I could commute and stay at home, not live on campus. And that was actually probably the best decision I ever made, because that insulated me from a lot of immoral activity and lifestyles that they were allowed to engage in on the Catholic campus. And this Catholic university, like there's in the United States, like unfortunately still the majority, was had slipped greatly away from its Catholic. Again, here it was more of a decline in my spirituality in general. There were some positive aspects of it. I certainly, had availability to go to Mass sometimes during the week. And I still went to Mass every Sunday with my family at our home parish. But overall, there were lots of influences there that were not beneficial to my spiritual development. I'm sure I wasn't always beneficial to others and their spiritual development. So it's something that certainly did not advance my journey with moving closer to Christ.
Yeah, we're going to hear more from Dr. George Delgado when we get back from the break. Fascinating personal testimony thus far. I'm sure many listening can relate to much that Dr. Delgado is sharing with us there. And as we go into the break, maybe consider, maybe reflect on, when was that time when you really had that sense of really understanding more of the attacks on the faith that were taking place even within the church, and then that grace to receive that strengthening in faith to really live out that sacrament of confirmation in the world. We're going to be right back. Stay tuned. Welcome back to The Simple Truth. Jim Havens here with Dr. George Delgado, our guest today on this Testimony Tuesday, sharing some of his personal testimony with us. He is president and founder of Steno Institute, stenoinstitute.org. Dr. Delgado, appreciate all that you are sharing with us in that first segment. What would you say is kind of the origin story of your interest in medicine, and really, that led you down this trajectory, which we're going to get to a lot of the good work that you've been doing, but involved in the second half of the show. But where did all that kind of begin? When did you start having a sense that that was the path you wanted to go down?
That really started when I was in my my second year of college. When at first I started university thinking that I wanted to probably go towards law and become a lawyer. Then when I first matriculated, I saw the counselor. I decided, I probably should take some science courses, because if I took science courses, that would leave more doors open and not close the doors to maybe pursuing a law career. So I did that, and I got on the track to be a science major. And it was by the midpoint of my second year that I decided I wanted to go into medicine. After first thinking about possibly going into dentistry, because I have two brothers who are dentists. My older brother at that point was just getting started in dentistry, and that seemed interesting. But then another older brother was in medical school, and he told me how much he liked that, and that seemed even more interesting. So I thought, okay, this is what I think I'm going to do. I felt I had the aptitude for it. I had the interest in science. I had the interest in helping people and solving things. So it seemed like it was the right thing to do, to pursue, to have a satisfying, gratifying career.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, excellent. And so then you end up in medical school, and how was the faith going at that point? I guess I'd love to hear whatever point it is where I know you had that strong core in the faith, but tough times with what was going on in the church, what was going on in the culture. But still, you had the faith, but it just needed to, I guess, see make sense of what exactly is going on, to be able to see through it and to be able to see what it is. And I guess what helped you to finally do that at some point, and to see that there's a disobedience that is taking place even within the hierarchy of the Catholic Church, and you were able to see that and see, okay, what, am I in or am I out? What do I believe? I believe the faith. This is what it is. This is this is the way I'm going to go. What strengthened you in the faith as you continued forward?
Sure. Yeah, let me just round out the story of kind of what weakened the faith. So at that point, I would call myself at that point heading into medical school, a cafeteria Catholic. So I definitely had a strong faith, and the Catholic faith was mine. I definitely wanted to follow Jesus, but I wanted to follow him on my own terms, like many people do. And so I definitely was picking and choosing, especially in the areas of morality. When after the first year of medical school, my wife and I got married, and I'm extremely blessed to have a very, very holy and lovely wife, Elizabeth, my Lizzie. But when we were doing our marriage preparation, our pastor said to us, "You are going to use condoms, right?" And so that right there gave us kind of carte blanche to use deception in our marriage. And I thought that just really led to my increase of my cafeteria style of Catholicism, of picking, and he, basically gave us license to do that. So we got married, and through medical school, I think my faith actually somewhat strengthened because of opposition there. I was very pro-life, and I had to defend pro-life views, and including in debates in front of the entire medical school class. And that really strengthened me, and kind of, I think, gave me the feeling that I was part of a minority, and that actually, instead of weakening the faith, actually strengthened it. But as we went on, we had 3 children, and then the fourth, all about a year and a half, 2 years apart. So we had a really busy, hectic household, and my wife Liz was stressed, and when she was stressed, I was stressed. And by that time, I had a busy practice and a successful practice with a partner from residency. And he would prescribe contraception. I wouldn't, but I would simply let my patients go to him and refer them to him. So it really made it easy for that to happen. And then when after the fourth child, when she was probably less than 2 years old, we decided I should have a vasectomy. And I had a vasectomy, and we didn't consult anyone, didn't consult any priests, although some of the bad priests might have told us it was okay. And we didn't certainly consult any family members, who I think would have given us good counsel. We went ahead and I did that. And then soon thereafter, my associate decided to leave the practice and go to another practice. So then I was left with a real challenge. Would I continue to not prescribe contraception, or would I be pragmatic and expedient and start prescribing contraception because patients would want that? So unfortunately, for the first time in my career, including residency and medical school, I started prescribing contraception at that time in my private practice. And the practice continued to grow. I brought in another associate. But then the pivotal point in my life and in my wife's life was when one of my brothers gave me the papal encyclical Humanae Vitae. And for those of you who aren't familiar with it, it's a short 16-page encyclical written by St. Paul VI at the time, after the doors of contraception had been wide open in our society, and this was the church's response to it. There's a lot of history behind that, of course, that we don't have time to go into. But I read it, and it really felt like the scales fell from my eyes, and I fell off my prideful horse. And it was that day, after reading it, that I decided that I would no longer prescribe contraception in the practice. And then she and I decided to discern what we would do in our private lives. So I sought out a surgeon who was skilled at doing vasectomy reversals. I had the reversal surgery. Unfortunately, though, God did not bless us with any more children after that. But we saw that as being his will, and now we were fully putting our lives in his hands. And from then on, I really felt that I was full-time, all for Team Jesus, and no longer being a cafeteria Catholic, living my life for him, through him, and in him, and always seeking to discern what his will was for us and following that will. that led to a lot of tumult in the practice itself, a lot of criticism and public scorn of me and my practice. But God really provided, and from then on, life became much simpler and easier, and definitely we were on a much better track from then on.
Wow, Dr. George Delgado is with us. What a beautiful story. So, it doesn't surprise me that after jumping in and saying, I believe to the full, I'm all in, there's going to be some persecution that follows, especially in the field of medicine, because, there are clear lines, contraception, and abortifacients and these things, and the almost such the popular normalization that, well, this is just what people do. This is just what we do. Everybody uses these things. That would have been, you would stand out quite clearly. And you already had some of that. But now, fully being in that camp, I'm sure that was difficult in many ways. You would have had to rely upon a lot of graces from that sacrament of confirmation to be that soldier in Christ in difficult times. But I bet you also, in that, really have been a great witness for many. Is there anybody that stands out to you, or any interactions that took place where, the persecution, but also this opportunity, really seeing an opportunity there to the missionary nature of it, to be that light in the darkness? Anything you can share on that?
Yeah, there are many instances where I was able to share with patients in my practice and give them good counsel, like I should have been doing all the way along. But there was one particular case where there was a family friend who lived just up the street, and he had 2 girls, and his wife had come down with a very serious neurologic condition. And he and I were talking outside on the sidewalk, and he mentioned to me that he was very seriously, and he was Catholic, and a pretty committed Catholic, but he was saying that because of his situation with his wife having this very serious neurologic condition, he was seriously considering having a vasectomy. And I had not, at that point, shared my story really with too many people at all. But I really felt that I had to put my pride and embarrassment aside and tell him what I had done and what I had gone through and how I regretted it. And because of sharing my testimony with him and giving him my support, he changed his mind and he never had the vasectomy. And so to me, that was really a great feeling of allowing myself to be a conduit for God's grace and for his blessings to help this friend who needed good counsel. And I was able to give him the good news of the gospel.
Incredible. So how did it further impact the work in terms of, I guess, reflecting, considering, discerning, areas that you might want to do more on? I mean, I look at your work and you certainly have gotten into some areas. I hear some of your story and it does remind me of Dr. Hilger's. I see that you would have linked up with him with the NAPRO technology training program and all of this. But how, I guess, what was the impact for you? And also not even just in the work, but also personally as a husband and a father. Did you see a big difference in yourself once you went all in?
Oh, there's no doubt. I think I became a much better husband and a much better father. I really assumed and embraced the role of servant leader for my family, sacrificing for them, sacrificing the things that I wanted to do or that brought me enjoyment in order to better the family. And our marriage just grew so rich and deep and much more spiritual. And then we started praying the rosary as a family together, actually at the suggestion of my oldest daughter. So that became a huge blessing for us that we have maintained ever since then. On the practice side of things, I started to see my practice more and more as a ministry instead of just a medical practice. I went ahead and got the NAPRO technology training, started to implement that training into the practice. But really, at that time, it was, in a way, a prelude to moving from the Northern California to San Diego to join Culture of Life Family Services.
Okay, we'll pick up there when we get back from the break. And we're going to learn more about the good work of Dr. George Delgado in the second half of the show when we come back. There's a lot of wonderful things here that you need to know about that then you can really be that missionary, that light in the darkness that you're called to be, more equipped to share some of these things, some of this good work, some of these resources that we're going to be talking about. Just very blessed to have Dr. George Delgado with us today. stenoinstitute.org. We're going to be right back. Stay tuned. Welcome back to The Simple Truth. Jim Havens here with Dr. George Delgado, our guest today. He is a Catholic husband and father, president and founder of Steno Institute, stenoinstitute.org. Also the founder of the Abortion Pill Reversal program, now called Abortion Pill Rescue. To learn more about the network, abortionpillreversal.com is where you find it, abortionpillreversal.com. But Dr. Delgado, we left off with you moving down to Southern California, to San Diego. Tell us more about what the opportunity was there, what the work was there, and moving forward.
So I really saw it as promptings of the Holy Spirit. At the time, I was looking to change my practice, to simplify it in Northern California. I wasn't planning to move anywhere. And the night before I was going to restructure the practice, my wife said to me, "Why don't you look on the One More Soul website?" And I said, well, okay, I thought that was interesting. I said, okay, I'll do that. And she had heard about One More Soul at a conference she went to, Women of Grace by then Jonette Benkovich. And she knew that they had a bulletin board for recruiting physicians. And so I went on that, and I saw that there was a position in San Diego at a pro-life Catholic family health clinic. And my wife and I, since I'd done my residency in Los Angeles, we'd come to San Diego to visit my uncle several times, and we really enjoyed it and liked it a lot, and said to ourselves, well, if we didn't have family in Northern California, this would be the place we'd want to live. So way back then, I think the Lord had put that desire in our hearts to be used for His greater good, of course. And so I thought, well, maybe I'll just do this kind of to placate my wife, make sure that she is comfortable with the decision I'm going to make of restarting the practice in Northern California. This was the day before Thanksgiving, and I was able to get a flight the day after Thanksgiving, the Friday after Thanksgiving, which, as you know, is a very busy travel weekend. But there was a flight available. I got a flight, came down, stayed with my uncle, met with the people of Culture of Life Family Services, and immediately this seemed like this was something that God wanted us to do. And it was one of those things where door after door opened and opened and opened. And it was clear this was the direction we should take. I got back home. I discussed it with her. She was on board. And we then went about quietly selling the practice, coming to San Diego to look house hunt, trying to do it very quietly. Although we had a friend who lived in a kind of a small town in the East Bay, and a friend was a postal worker, and she said, "Oh, I could tell by the mail you were getting that you were moving." So word got out, but that was okay, and we finally relocated to San Diego County in 2005, and that started the next chapter of moving forward towards abortion pill reversal.
Yeah, connect those dots for us. Tell us how that began. What was the point at which you first envisioned this whole idea? How did that happen?
Well, when I was, it started with Culture of Life Family Services. I was utilizing my naprotechnology training. I was then like a year or two out of training of that, and treating a lot of women who had threatened miscarriages, situations where it appeared that they might miscarry. And we would check their progesterone levels. If the progesterone level were low, then we would supplement progesterone, often saving the pregnancy. At the same time, prior to the year 2000, I had been reading about RU486, which was the previous term used for mifepristone. I knew that it was coming up, and finally when it was approved in the U.S. in 2000, I knew all about it, how it worked, that it blocked progesterone receptors. It was in 2009, I was working in my office when I got a phone call from a sidewalk counselor named Terry Palmquist. And Terry would call me from time to time when she had medical questions. This time she had a very interesting situation. She said she was on the phone with a woman in El Paso, Texas, who had taken mifepristone, but had changed her mind and wanted to stop her chemical abortion. Terry asked me if there was any way I could help her. I said to Terry, well, I've never heard of anybody stopping a chemical abortion before, but let me think about it. And it was at that point that the Holy Spirit put two different data banks, if you will, in my brain together. One was my knowledge of progesterone and threatened miscarriages, and the other was the knowledge of mifepristone. I knew that mifepristone blocked progesterone receptors. So I thought in my mind, well, although the progesterone levels may not be low, the fact is the progesterone is not as effective as it should be because those receptors are being blocked. And the receptors being blocked means that the progesterone can't do its good work. So I figured if we gave supplemental progesterone, perhaps the progesterone could outcompete the mifepristone, get to those receptors on the cellular level, and have the good effect of progesterone of saving the pregnancy. So I then had I had the idea that the Holy Spirit gave me, but then I had to find a doctor who could treat this patient because she was in El Paso and I was in San Diego. And I knew that we needed to get going on this as quickly as possible. So I looked up on my naprotechnology resources and I found Dr. John Ellen Bellacura in El Paso. I called her. Unfortunately, she was in the office. She took my call. She had progesterone in the office and she was willing to treat the patient. So I came up with a protocol on the fly, asked her if she'd be willing to do it, and she said yes. And she treated the patient. Within a couple of weeks, I got a phone call from Dr. Bellacura that the baby was still alive, and I was very heartened by that. And the baby continued alive throughout the pregnancy and finally was born at term, and everything appeared to be fine with the baby. So I thought, well, that's really wonderful. At that point, I wasn't sure that what we had done had saved the pregnancy. Maybe it could have happened by chance. I wasn't sure. But from then on, people started calling me from around the country, asking about what I had done, seeking advice. I started getting more calls from women who are in this situation. I would call around the country to find people who could treat them. And then before we knew it, we had about 6 cases that we knew of, and we started inquiring to see if there were any others. It was at that time we decided to write an article for the medical literature. And at that time, I found out that Dr. Matthew Harrison in North Carolina, unbeknownst to me, had a very similar experience about 2 years earlier where he had helped a woman who wanted to stop her chemical abortion. Dr. Harrison's was actually the very first reported case of reversing a mifepristone abortion. So we included his case, my case, and others into this article, which was published in a peer-reviewed medical journal in 2012. And then things started getting people started getting more excited about this. More people started learning about it, started getting out in the Catholic lay press. And at that point, I realized that we had a couple of problems. One is every time someone called, we'd have to scramble around and find a doctor in her area who could treat her. And that took a lot of time and effort. Number two, sometimes women weren't finding us in time. They didn't know about abortion pill reversal because it was so new. So in order to solve both those problems, I decided to start the network, which I named Abortion Pill Reversal, and coined the term abortion pill reversal for the process. And then I started recruiting doctors to join the network. And slowly, surely, we started adding more and more doctors. And along with the website, we had a 1-800 number that we obtained from a sidewalk counselor in San Diego. He gave us his 1-800 number that he had on a grasshopper phone. We use that, and that's still the number that's used to this day, actually, by Heartbeat International. From there, the network grew organically. We started adding more and more patients. We published the second article in 2018, which was a large case series of over 250 women who had successful reversals, and that, again, was published in a peer-reviewed journal. At that point, we actually had cases all over the country. This was becoming an international project. There was becoming a bit of a strain for our local nonprofit, Cultural Life Family Services in San Diego. So we had very good relationship with Heartbeat International. I knew the people there. I had spoken at their conferences. And we started talking about maybe if they could take over the network, because they had a lot of institutional depth. They were an international organization, and they gladly wanted to take over the network. So we handed over the network, the website, and the 1-800 number to them. They took it over. They wanted me to continue to manage the medical protocols and to continue to do research and education and outreach. So I needed a platform for that. That's when I founded Steno Institute in 2018, named after Blessed Nicholas Steno, an 18th century Danish scientist and physician who later went on to become converted to Catholicism and became a priest and a bishop. So he seemed like the perfect blend of faith and reason in order to be our patron. So from there, the Steno Institute grew, and the Abortion Pill Rescue Network has grown very well under the auspices of Heartbeat International.
Wow. Blessed Nicholas Steno. Pray for us. I'm not familiar with him, so thank you for sharing that. A new saint we can get acquainted with. So again, the website stenoinstitute.com. And so this is another one of those beautiful advancements by God's grace that it takes place in your life, and that you participate in this good work, bringing this forward, helping so many people, and this continues to help many people. And yet at the same time, there's going to be persecution that comes when you're stepping out in this way, especially when we've got the pro-abortion side, pro-child murder folks, Planned Parenthood. It's not like Planned Parenthood sees this and says, "Oh, okay, yeah, we'll start letting pregnant moms who have taken this pill know about this, that there's a reversal if they want it." If instead, what Planned Parenthood does is they continue their propaganda, their lies, to even say, "Oh, no, there's no such thing. This doesn't work." What's the latest? What's your sense on how the pro-abortion folks are spinning all of this?
Well, they've over the years they've spun it any way they can, and sometimes backtracking what they say when we disprove their lies and their misstatements. But they're essentially they have a quote from a doctor who's one of the leading abortion researchers. He's at UCSF. His name is Dr. Daniel Grossman. He's been a great critic of what we've been doing, but he was interviewed by Slate magazine online. And in it, I'll paraphrase what he said, but he said something to the extent that if a woman's in this situation and she takes progesterone, I don't think it would harm her if she did it under medical supervision. So he's saying right there that progesterone use for abortion pill reversal is safe. And we agree with that, of course. The next statement he made, though, was most telling. He said, but I don't support this because women might get the idea that reversing their abortions is possible. So that right there, I think, explains why they've come after us, why Dr. Grossman, Dr. Mitchell Crennan, who designed a study explicitly to disprove abortion pill reversal, why American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists, American Medical Association, ACLU, Planned Parenthood, all of what I call the medical abortion complex have come at us with gangbusters, because they know that if you and your audience know that some women regret their chemical abortions and try to reverse them, that puts a chink in the armor of their narrative. And their narrative is that abortion is a great good for all women. But they know that if we know this, that some women want to reverse their chemical abortions, that it must not be a great good for all women, because if it were, why would some women have regret and some women want to reverse their chemical abortions? And we know from various studies that the regret is 10% or more of women who have these chemical abortions. So therefore, it's not a great good for all women, because some women want to change them. And that's why they've come after us. And Dr. Donna Harrison has been a leader at the American Association of Pro-Life OBGYNs, on whose board I sit. She told me one time when we were talking about why were they coming after us so vehemently, she said, well, the reason why, George, is because you've poked the bear. And indeed, the bear of big abortion has been poked. And we're no longer going to stand here and accept their lies, their misstatements, their misinterpretation of the data. We're here to give women the good news that if they regret their chemical abortions, we're here to help them, and we can safely reverse those chemical abortions. And they're very grateful when they know that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this is what it takes to end this madness, this depravity of abortion, of child murder, to get to the very end of this, where it is over, ultimately done away with. Illegal in law, unthinkable in culture. People like Dr. George Delgado stepping up and doing the good work, stumbling upon things that are very beneficial and not being cowed or fearing. We'll be right back. Stay tuned. Welcome back to The Simple Truth. Jim Havens here with Dr. George Delgado, our guest today, president and founder of Steno Institute, stenoinstitute.org. Dr. Delgado was trying to speak to your fortitude at the end of that last segment, and hold it up and say, this is what we need. All right, we have to be people of fortitude to stand up and do the good that we are called to do, regardless if it's going to poke the bear of the abortion industrial complex. We're going to stand up anyway. We're going to speak up anyway. We're going to do the good anyway. And in your case, tremendous visible fruits. In seeing, you're able to see the visible fruit of lives being saved by this, and mothers being helped by this, so that they can reverse a terrible decision that they have made, and be able to hold their child and have their child. And I can't imagine what you've seen in terms of the stories, the real life people involved in all of this, where these moms and these children, just so grateful, I'm sure. I mean, I just can't imagine. Can you kind of paint the picture? Just share some of the good fruits of all of this with us.
Yeah, I've had the pleasure and the privilege to meet many of the babies that we have been able to save through abortion pill reversal, as well as I've gotten the very first one, the one in El Paso, Texas, with which I was involved. She took Terry Palmquist and the mother met at a pro-life conference about a year later, and she took a picture with Terry and with her baby and sent that to me and said, "Thank you very much, Dr. Delgado." So that's a little memento that I treasure. I have on the shelf here in my office, that is a constant reminder to me that what we're doing really makes a difference in the lives of these mothers and children. We're helping save the physical lives of the child, but at the same time, we're helping save the spiritual lives of the mother and sometimes of the father too. So it's really a very wonderful participation in God's saving grace that He's allowed us to have this little role in it. So really very grateful to God that He's allowed me to do that.
Yeah. We've got probably about 5-6 minutes here in this final segment. What else would you like to share with us today?
Well, I'd like to share a couple of things about abortion pill reversal that just so people are sort of better equipped to talk about it. The first is the study that Dr. Crennan published, now been 4 years almost. Well, like I said, he set out to disprove abortion pill reversal. There's several things about this study that are very interesting. I think people might want to know about. Number one is that he did some pretrial statistical analysis to see how many patients he would need in the study, and he figured he would need 40 in the study, 20 in each group. But in the paper itself, he said he only intended to recruit 40 patients. So for anybody who has any knowledge of scientific studies, they would know that that's a big red flag, because we usually plan on some people dropping out of the study, in any kind of study. And so that you have to question if he was really serious about having a good study published or not, or if you're just looking for some way to poke holes in our treatment. Number two is that the study was stopped early after 3 patients had bleeding and called the emergency department. And because of this, the spin that they put out is that abortion pill reversal is not safe. However, if you look at those 3 women, you'll see that one of them indeed needed progesterone. So she was like an APR patient, and she had some bleeding that they, in part of the study they called severe, but in the later part of the study they just called brisk. So they're using different words, I think, to confound us. When she went to the emergency department, she was told that there's nothing needed to be done. In other words, she had had a successful abortion, an unsuccessful reversal, unfortunately, but she didn't need any treatment in the emergency department. She didn't need to be there. She just panicked. She called 911, which is okay. The other two patients were in the so-called placebo group. That is, they got mifepristone, but they did not get progesterone. Both of those women needed emergency D&Cs, surgical abortions, because of their bleeding, and one of them needed a blood transfusion. And so, if anything, the study suggested that taking mifepristone and not doing anything else might be unsafe. It did not at all suggest that taking progesterone after progesterone would be unsafe. The other interesting things about the study, although it was not statistically significant because they only ended up enrolling 12 women, they stopped the study early after that third woman needed the transfusion. Well, but the numbers were very much consistent with our numbers of, and with our best protocols, 68% success rate with our best protocols to reverse chemical abortions. And this study was about 75% successful reversal with the progesterone. That is, at 2 weeks out, the babies were still alive. And with the ones that were in placebo, 33% were still, the babies were still alive at 2 weeks. So although the numbers were not statistically significant, it actually was consistent with what we're saying. So that study, which was designed to disprove APR, actually lends credence to what we're doing, both to the safety and to the effectiveness. So I think it's very important for women to know about that. I think it's also important for people to keep in mind that not everybody at this point knows about abortion pill reversal. So please, in your sphere of influence, spread the word about this, that it is safe, that it's effective, and that women who are given a second chance at choice are extremely grateful. That way, when a woman comes upon this situation and wonders if she can reverse it, either she would have already heard about it and knows to go to abortionpillreversal.com, or maybe she has a confidant or trusted friend who will tell her, hey, I know that you can actually reverse your chemical abortion, and then she can give her the information. So I think it's important for us to be well educated about this, or just talking around the proverbial water cooler at work and talking about this, that, hey, this is something that, why would you be against giving a woman a second chance at choice? If you are pro-choice, why not give her a second chance at choice? This is just a very logical argument you can present to your pro-choice friends, that really these big organizations, again, what I've called the medical abortion complex, I don't think they're really interested in choice. They're only interested in one result, and that is an abortion. They're not interested in giving women the choice to choose life or the second chance at choice to choose life. They've shown that by fighting us tooth and nail. And so it behooves us then to be the messengers of this good news, that there is an option for women who have regrets and who want that second chance at choice. Abortion pill reversal, APR, is a great viable alternative that's safe and effective, and women who are given that opportunity. And I've noticed that even women who have that opportunity but who have failed reversals, they still are very grateful that they've done whatever they can to save their babies. And they are given quite a bit of peace in their hearts that they know they've at least tried to save their babies. So this is really the good news, that it's safe, that it's effective, and women are very, very grateful when they're given that second chance at choice.
Yeah, the websites are stenoinstitute.org and abortionpillreversal.com. Dr. Delgado, anything you can share just in general about pregnancy, about early pregnancy and the need? How would a woman know early in pregnancy that maybe she's low in progesterone, even just putting abortion aside, just pregnancy in general, anything that they would be looking for? Obviously, this would be vital information to know so they could go and get some extra progesterone. What can you share with us?
Well, I think any woman who's had some irregular periods before they get pregnant, or they have what we call a short luteal phase, that is from the time of ovulation to the time of the next period, it's less than about 13 days or so. Those women might be at risk of having low progesterone levels, so they should have that in their mind and maybe even get tested before they conceive. But certainly any pregnant woman early in the pregnancy who's having any cramping or spotting should be seen, and I believe should have a progesterone level checked. Oftentimes, the mainstream OBGYNs will just say, no, there's nothing we can do. Let's just see what happens. But I think checking them for low progesterone, and if they have low progesterone, treating them is a good thing that's safe. And progesterone has been used in pregnancy safely for over 50 years. So why not give them that opportunity to do whatever you can to save those babies and to give those mothers successful pregnancies.
Outstanding. Dr. George Delgado, thank you so much for being with us today. Again, stenoinstitute.org, abortionpillreversal.com. You see what a life of faith does, the good fruits that can come forth. What a gift Dr. George Delgado is. God bless you all.